Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very happy Friday to you all, and a very warm welcome to you all on our penultimate live stream for Buildtastic this week, all part of National Construction Week. So I'm going to warmly introduce you one of our partners and colleagues, Ellie Henderson, and Ellie is from Anglian Water, and she's going to give us a little presentation on the challenges of Anglian Water's built environment. Just before I hand over to Ellie, can I just remind you all out there to pop any questions that you've got in your Q&A chat, or text your respective tutor, or email them in to me, and I will make sure that Ellie gets those at the end of her session, and we'll have a little Q&A discussion at the end. So warm welcome and a big thank you from the staff and students of West Suffolk College to Ellie Henderson. Thanks, Ellie.
Hi, right, thank you. Yeah, as Debbie's introduced, I'm Ellie from Anglian Water, and I'm part of Anglian Water's education team. So part of Anglian Water's education team, we've got lots of stuff that you might have already come across, part of Buildtastic resources. We've got a load of other resources directed to on our Anglian Water website, and lots of stuff on YouTube, not just about building construction side, but also water efficiency, climate change. And I know quite a few people have already shown they're quite interested in sewage. And yeah, we've got a lot of really good stuff about sewage online as well. So please do ask me any questions. I'd really love to know what you've enjoyed as well. A bit of feedback would be great. So there is a virtual tour of the Water Recycling Centre, which is me as well, that you might have already come across. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Anglian Water, what we actually do. So Anglian Water, you might have heard of us, you might not have, but Anglian Water cover the whole of the east of England. And the east of England, when I'm talking about the east of England, this is an area that's set out for where Anglian Water deliver water and deliver sewage services. So I can show you a quick map. This is what we can see is the Anglian Water region. So this is the largest area geographically of all the water companies in the UK. So when I say geographically, it's about 20% of the UK. We go all the way up to the River Humber in the north, so up to Grimsby, and then all the way around coast, go down to Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, where I am down in Chelmsford. In Chelmsford, you might notice this, we're actually in the orange patch. So it does depend slightly where you are, what services Anglian Water supply. So Anglian Water Services, we've got two main jobs. And our two main jobs then at Anglian Water, I'll show you with my nice bottle here, disappearing in my background. So this you might recognise, you might not recognise if you've already watched some of those videos. This is my lovely bottle of sewage, fresh sample from the Water Recycling Centre. So I've called it a Water Recycling Centre. They are called sewage treatment works, lots of different names for them. That sewage is all stuff from you guys, from your homes, from your college, from schools, and that goes back to us at Anglian Water for us to clean it up, to go into the environment. So it goes back into the environment, back into rivers, into the seas, but we've got another main role as well. So the blue areas show where we also supply drinking water. So this probably will definitely disappear on my background because it'll be amazing, especially with my finger on it. So drinking water services, we take water from the environment and we have to clean it up again in another process. It's a really brilliant, both those processes, if you're interested in the science, and there are lots of other resources that can go through those processes with you if you're interested. So cleaning up water, sending it to your homes. So what does that have to do with what we actually build? The Anglian Water region, we have over 4 million homes that we supply water to and sewage services. So we've got 36,000 kilometres of drinking water pipes, and we've got another 78,000 kilometres of sewage service pipes. So that's enough pipes to go all the way around the earth twice if we joined them all up. So we've got a huge pipe network. We have to supply every single home in the region. So we don't build houses, but all of our network is joining up each and every one of those houses. So what do we actually build then? I'm going to just show you some pictures. Have a think, what can you envisage Anglian Water might be building across the region? So you might recognise some water towers. Water towers, these are one of the things that you might see when you're driving around. There's about 400 around the Anglian Water region. You're not going to see all 400 because some of them are under the ground. Those water towers then are where we store water for when it's really peak periods times of the day. So when you're all getting ready for college in the morning, when you all go home getting ready for bed, we need to make sure there's enough water for all those toilets and showers. So we store the water in these tall water towers or underground water towers, and then that water can be fed back into our pipe network. So if you have a think, you might recognise, maybe you know where there's some water towers in your area. So these water towers, quite a lot of them look like these ones. They're kind of built around the same sort of period, but there are lots and lots of them all across the region. They all look slightly different. A bit more mundane then, I suppose. Anglian Water have also got lots of offices. We've got over 4,000 staff, and quite a lot of them work in offices. So we've got our head office, which is in Huntingdon, which is Cambridgeshire, so right in the central of the region. And there are also offices that are scattered around other places. So our call centre, so if you've got something you need to call about for your bill for Anglian Water, then that goes all the way up to Lincoln. You might be more familiar with lots of machines like this. So if you've had a look at that water recycling centre process video with me showing you around at Chelmsford, this is the sort of things that you'll see in that video. This is one of our water recycling centres, and these are all parts of the tanks that we have. Lots and lots of water recycling centres across the region, over 1,300 water recycling centres, and these are really, really important. So like I've already mentioned, the lovely sewage, the stuff that comes down from your loos, and the stuff that goes down the drains, down the plug holes, down the storm drains in the street, will end up at one of our water recycling centres. This treatment process cleans up the water, makes it safe to go back into the environment. One of the things that we have to consider when we're building a water recycling centre is actually how to make it safe. One of the problems that we have with a water recycling centre, there are dangerous chemicals that come off of sewage when it's decomposing. So chemicals like hydrogen sulfide, so you might be familiar with an acid, so that can cause lots of damage to materials like concrete, which is part of the process when these treatment works are being built, but also part of the maintenance, making sure they're there long term and they're safe for our staff to work at as well. The main thing with this process is making sure the water's clean enough and safe enough to go back into the rivers. So it has to be a really, really good quality. So there has to be lots of stages to make sure it's clean and safe to drink. So the other side of the process, the drinking water treatment, again, we have lots and lots of treatment works. And these treatment works, there's about 300 of them, and they look quite different. They're all enclosed, there's not open air tanks like these ones. Those water treatment works are really important, using a very, very different process from the sewage treatment process. That sewage treatment process then, we have to make sure it's clean enough and safe enough for you to drink. So that drinking water, we do use a chemical process, and we also use filtration, so like you might have done in primary school. And that filtration process makes sure it's clean enough and safe enough for you guys to drink. So it's not going to go back into the environment then. So those processes, those treatment works are really key for actually supplying your drinking water. Actually getting it to your homes though, connecting up all of those treatment works for water and sewage and your houses, we have got a huge pipe network. Like I've already mentioned, enough pipes to go all the way around the earth twice. So that huge pipe network, you don't see it, it's under the ground. The only time you will see it, and probably one of the times you might come across Anglian Water, is when there is a burst or a leak, or those mains are being replaced, those water pipes. So digging up the roads might cause a lot of problems, but it is essential to make sure that those water and sewage services are being maintained. So what do those pipes look like? Like I said, you might not have ever seen it unless the road's being dug up, but there is a huge, huge pipe network going on. So these pipes here, these are pretty big ones. From your home, probably about 10 to 15 centimetres above the size of a sewage pipe, but these huge, huge pipes being installed are so we can transport large amounts of water across huge areas. Some of the really exciting projects we've got going on at the moment, we've got a pipeline project which is going to connect all the way up from Lincoln down to near Bury St Edmunds, back down into Essex, so we can transport water from Lincolnshire, where it's a lot wetter, to the east of down all the way down to Essex, so where there is less water, for another water company called Affinity as well. So there are huge pipeline projects going on, and that really exciting pipeline project is starting at the moment. And it's going to be billions of pounds worth of investment. It's going to be a huge, huge project, and using lots and lots of different people's skills and experience as well. So you might recognise an image like this. This is our own laboratories. So we have our own laboratories which are up in Huntingdon. And these laboratories are really, really important. Again, making sure the water is clean and safe to go into the environment, go out to your taps, but also lots and lots of other features to make sure we're doing a really good quality of water supply. So the laboratories work 24 hours a day. There are lots of different roles within the laboratories and lots of different types of tests going in with each of the labs. It's really quite an exciting place to visit. And the laboratories, if you are interested, there are some videos on YouTube so you can get an idea of what they look like, what happens in them. These laboratories then are really important for our process. We have got lots and lots of things which have to be checked. When you think about water that comes out of your tap, you're probably not aware of everything that goes into making it clean, but actually making sure it's safe is really important. If you think about drinking water, if you're in another country, you worry about drinking water if you're just going to Spain, when it comes out of your taps. But actually, when we come into the water treatment process, we have to make sure there are not bacteria and harmful chemicals in that process. So we test for things like cryptosporidium. You might not have ever heard of cryptosporidium, but it's a really, really dangerous little creature that can get into our water quality. And that water can actually, cryptosporidium in water can kill people. So we have to make sure it's not there. It's essential. That process then, we have to be continually checking. The laboratories are constantly checking for cryptosporidium in water. So laboratories are really great, but there's something else a picture you might be familiar with. So this might look particularly natural, nice environment to be in. This is one of Anglian Water's reservoirs. So we've got 7 main reservoirs. There are lots of smaller reservoirs as well. The 7 main reservoirs, you might have heard of Rutland, which is a huge, huge reservoir near Peterborough, but Grafham Water maybe the other side of Huntingdon. And these reservoirs are really important. You might be wondering why I'm talking about this in terms of construction. These aren't natural. They aren't naturally forming lakes. Reservoirs have been built. They've been built by Anglian Water, and these reservoirs are there to make sure that we can supply the drinking water to your homes. So I could equate these to giant buckets. So buckets that we leave out to catch the rainwater, also divert water from streams and rivers, and it's there for your drinking water to come out of your taps. So this picture here with the people cycling, you might notice in the background there is sort of a concrete kind of tower, and best description for it. That is the draw-off tower. That is where the water is being taken out to our water treatment works, which would be located near to the water treatment work, to the reservoir, and then that water is the stuff that's going to be processed to go to the taps. So if you ever do go to visit one of these recreation sites at the reservoirs, they're there for lots and lots of different purposes. Yes, they're there for drinking water, but they're used for the natural environment to increase biodiversity. And that has been done really, really well, particularly Rutland Water is a site of special scientific interest for purposes for biodiversity and lots of other things like a Ramsar wetlands. And that biodiversity has really shown actually how we can use these built environments to their best. This natural environment then looks natural, but we've also developed it for recreational purposes. So yes, you can go cycling, you can go sailing, you can go windsurfing. There are lots and lots of different things that you can do at these sites as well. Just to prove my point that these are actually man-made, this is Pittsford Water, and this is the dam wall. So this is the side where you can actually see we have built this area. So we've built a dam wall, usually stemmed part of diverted some streams to collect the water. This picture, you can see the dam wall particularly well because this was taken in 2012 when we had a drought. So we'd had a drought because we'd had 2 very dry winters, and those 2 very dry winters meant that our reservoirs were really, really low. So that's why you can see the dam wall really well. Generally, it doesn't normally look like this. Normally it's really full. And Pitsford's actually really famous for, there's lots and lots of water sports that goes on at Pitsford Water. So back to the more conventional images to do with our built environment Anglian Water. This is another one of our water recycling centres, but this is to do with another part of the process that we call CHP and biosolids. So Anglian Water then, if you have a look at the water recycling tour video that I've already mentioned, part of the process, once we clean up the sewage, we are left with your poo. There's no other way to describe it, it's your poo. But we collect up, well, there is other ways to describe it. Generally the guys at the site, the operational staff don't describe it like that, I do. The biosolids, the organic solids, so that is poo, soil, things that will be naturally from in the sewage, we collect from those treatment processes, and it's processed, we treat it, we kill off bacteria and pathogens, and we can also collect that to recycle it. So we recycle your poo, it becomes something called biosolids and cake, which I wish I had an example of, but I'm at home, haven't been at the education centre for a while. Biosolids, it just looks like black soil. And that biosolids, once we've cleaned it up, we will put it into containers, we take it away, it's another part of our business, and we sell it to farmers. So the recycled poo, it is completely safe to go on the fields, don't panic. It's safe, it's had the bacteria killed, it's ready to go back to the environment. It goes back onto the farm's fields and it's used as a fertiliser for the soil. It's a really important part of the process for having a circular process, that we haven't got waste materials. So the biosolids return to the farms. One of the bonuses of that is when we are treating what was called sludge, the poo and the soil and things like that, there is lots and lots of a byproduct which you might also be familiar with, especially quite famously if you've been eating beans. Yeah, I'll let you think about that for a second. Methane gas. We collect methane gas, and we're now developing lots and lots of sites so we can collect the methane gas and use it to create electricity in a process called combined heat and power. So combined heat and power is a really, really exciting process. We basically burn the methane. We burn the methane in an engine like you would to create electricity in a turbine. So we create our electricity, which goes back into our process. The machines in those pictures, all those tanks to make them work, use a huge amount of energy. And it uses a huge amount of energy, and also therefore it has a huge impact on carbon as well. So any of these processes where we're reducing our energy and consumption and our carbon consumption as well is a really good part of for us as a business. So biosolids, CHP, there's a lot more going on. I'll show you just one more picture. No, another one of my pictures. This is also one of our water recycling centres. So there is a lot going in at the moment, like I've already mentioned about carbon, but all the way across the business, how can we reduce our carbon consumption? And part of that, we're offsetting it by creating our own carbon neutral energy. So photovoltaic solar panels, this is an example of one of the ones that is on one of our existing sites. Lots of sites have got a bit of land. Maybe you might remember that big picture I showed you of the water recycling centre. If there's a little gap, we can put some more solar panels in. Some of them we have just launched at Grafton Water, so near our reservoir. There is a brand new photovoltaic solar panel farm gone in there, a solar array, and it's 42,000 photovoltaic panels, and that covers 40 acres of land. So that's a huge, huge space. I know videos don't work on here very well. There's a brilliant YouTube clip with some drone footage looking over those solar panels. So if you get the chance, go and have a look. It looks amazing. All of these solar panels spread out across the works. And this huge amount of solar panels, 40 acres worth of solar panels, that can create enough energy to offset 0.25% of the electricity for that treatment works. So it doesn't sound like a lot, a quarter, but these are huge energy consumptive processes. So a quarter makes a really big difference. And that's in that same amount as about 3,000 homes for a year. So it's quite a lot of energy that they're able to generate. So we have got really high targets in terms of energy. So it's not just solar panels, we're also looking at different ways of working. So we're looking at wind turbines where they're going to be most effective. So not so good down in Essex, but maybe in Lincolnshire, where there's a lot more wind to be available, then there is actually a really good case for those to be used as well. So another really exciting project. This is something you might not believe, but this is something that we've built. Looks like a completely natural environment, but not so long ago it looked like this. So this at Anglian Water is what we have built. This is called Inglethorpe Wetlands. So instead of looking at those machines that we've been using for over 100 years now, that same treatment process to clean up sewage, we're looking at going back to a natural process. So actually building things differently, challenging how we've always built and built these processes and built the same tanks, looking at things from a different perspective, which I think is really quite exciting. So this has been an £800 million investment to build a natural treatment works at Inglethorpe, and they have now got now got millions of litres of water coming every single day to that wetland. It is naturally being treated in the environment like it would have been done historically before the population grew as massively as it has, and it is cleaning out things out of the water which are really important. So things that we make sure are clean out of the sewage, like ammonia and phosphorus, these are naturally being removed by the plants in that water, in that wetlands. There is also lots of monitoring going on. We don't just build it and leave it and just keep chucking the sewage in. There's lots of monitoring going on. There'll be lots of testing going on, but also it's a chance for us to look at impacts of different things that's happening in the environment. So, for example, we're monitoring microplastics. So we know plastics is big on everybody's agenda at the moment. It's big on our agenda as well. We want to not make sure that that water is good quality for that biodiversity of that environment. So there are smaller examples than this. If maybe you live in a new building development, we're working with lots of housing developers when they're building houses. Actually, how can they make these houses use less water, so be water efficient, but also have less carbon footprint, but also how we can do a similar sort of thing to this and stop water going into the sewage treatment process in the first place. So if you walked around a new housing estate recently, you might have seen there are lots of lakes or ponds and natural rills being built into them. And these aren't just to look really pretty, they're to stop the rainwater going down the storm drains. So if the water's going into these natural lakes, the water can return naturally into the water cycle. So permeate through the ground, and it's there again to be used in a few hundred years, maybe even for drinking water. But also that water then, if it's not going down the drains, it's not ending up at our water recycling centre, we don't have to clean it. It means we're not using the energy, we're not using the carbon. So it's got to be good that we're not putting more back into this process. So they're called sustainable urban drainage. And what is really interesting at the moment, the Department for Education are also looking about getting schools to be more resilient, so looking towards the future and actually building sustainable urban drainage into schools as well. And there are some things that you can do to retrofit it. So it might be something that you could look at your own school, college and your home as well. And there are resources on the Anglian Water website that can help you do that, like a water audit. And there is a sustainable urban drainage pack if you're really interested. It is written for schools. I'm not selling you a grown-up, boring document. There is stuff in there that can be actually really practical. So I said we've built all this stuff. In all honesty, Anglian Water don't build any of this. We get other people to do it for us. Anglian Water have got contractors. We work with a group of other companies. So there are a group of other businesses which you probably might have heard of as well. I'll share some images. These are our 7 main contractors who we work with collectively on all of these sorts of projects. So anything that we're building new, we will be working with these in what we call our alliance. And we work really closely with these companies to make sure that we're building things that are really, really purposeful for the business. So when I talk about purposeful, we've got three main challenges at Anglian Water. So our three main challenges at Anglian Water, which are all in our business plan, are climate change. We live in the driest part of the UK. We're also subject to lots and lots of problems associated with that. So flooding, drought, I've already mentioned drought in 2012. But we're facing those challenges in the future as well. We know we are going to be affected by it. So we want to make sure that in the future we have got enough water for you to come out of your taps, that you don't run out of water when you turn that tap one day. The second main challenge, we're one of the fastest growing regions in the UK. So we need 200,000 new homes in the Anglian Water region who are all going to need drinking water, who are all going to need sewage services. And those new homes are all going to have a big role to play in how we actually build our infrastructure, our pipe networks, our treatment works, our reservoirs. All of that has got a huge role to play in what we do as a business too. And thirdly, our future pressures in terms of the environment. So like I've already mentioned about drought and flooding, but also where we live, the east of England is a huge importance for the country in terms of agriculture. So this is another need that we need to balance our water use with. So in terms of agriculture, but also quality of water in rivers and those coastlines as well. So actually making sure that that environment is protected for the future as well, which these building projects you've probably seen from some of the examples I've shown you are part of that process as well. So all of those things are fed into what we do when we're looking at new treatment works, new planning, new building. So carbon neutral is our target by 2030. A few years ago, it was 2050. We've already brought it down to 2030. So it's a huge challenge. But there are huge roads that have already been made into making a business carbon neutral. So I know I'm talking a lot. I've got so much to tell you about. But there is lots that we do in terms of this, lots of different roles that go into this. We have got lots and lots of engineers. We've got lots of people who are working on building and talking to our customers. Whenever we do a new building work, so the Spa pipeline project from Lincolnshire to Essex, for example, and also at the moment we're looking at moving Cambridge Water Recycling Centre. So Cambridge Water Recycling Centre has been on the same site for the last 120 years. But you can imagine 120 years ago, Cambridge looked quite different. So moving the Water Recycling Centre, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money, but actually it's going to be there for the long-term growth for Cambridge. And that project at the moment is going through public consultation, looking at where possible sites it could be moved to. But also when this is being built, it's going to be a new opportunity to build it with a smaller geographical footprint, but also make it a really modern treatment works, reducing carbon, and provide opportunities for lots of jobs as well. So there are lots and lots of parts of this process. This isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to be years and years and years of work with using so many different people's skills as well. So these are some of the examples of things that we do at Anglian Water, and not alone, using those alliance partners and using lots and lots of people across the business. So I'm going to leave it open to questions. I know I've talked incessantly for half an hour, but I would be really interested. If it's something I can't answer right away, I will go and find out, I promise. If there is something you want to find out about our education programme, you can always email us at education@Anglian Water as well, anglianwater.co.uk. But there are loads and loads of things out there, hopefully that we can help you as well. And our jobs website, which is called anglianwatercareers.co.uk.
Thanks, Ellie. That was absolutely smashing and very informative. I love your bottle of sewage water.
Oh, doesn't everyone have one of these?
I was wondering how you collected it without getting your hands dirty, but let's not go there. Anyway, I've got loads of questions.
I can collect it for to have a look at the microorganisms in sewage.
Woo, you see, it's so exciting.
It is very exciting.
So we've got lots of questions. So are you happy if I ask you the question? I've also noticed that Emily's in the background. So if Emily wants to come in at any point to answer any of the questions, if you can't, more than happy to do that, if that's all right with you, Ellie. So my first question is from Josh. And he says, the virtual tour was great, Ellie. I loved it. How would I get into a career in dealing with the wastewater?
Okay, so first thing I'd say is look at the careers website. So it is anglianwatercareers.co.uk. I'm 90% sure. There's lots of information in there. There is also lots of information there, not just our current job roles that are being advertised, but also things like our apprenticeships, our graduate schemes. I know our graduate scheme at the moment is advertising at the moment, but there are also lots of case studies and examples of people that have how they've got into the business and things like that as well. But I'd definitely point you to there first. If there's not enough information on there, then I'm sure there's a contact for our HR resourcing team who can definitely help you with more information.
Lovely, thanks, Ellie. And I guess the question from Jen then, where can I find out about jobs in the recycling centres?
Yeah, the website.
Jen. And then Phil's come in and said, do you need to have a science qualification to work in the labs you were talking about earlier?
I'd say yes and no. Depends what job you're doing in the labs. Some lab jobs have more qualifications than others, depending on what it is. There is also on YouTube a brilliant video of an apprentice at the labs, and he explains his experience as well, which is brilliant. So he's gone in, he's learning on the job, and he's getting paid to do it. And it's a really great way to get to know the business as well, and get to know what other things are going on in the business, especially if you work in one area. Like the labs, you might not perhaps go out to some of the other parts of the business so much. So it's a really good way to get to know what else is going on. But then lots of other roles, you're going out and you're seeing lots of different parts of a region or lots of other parts of the business as well. So
brilliant, thanks, Sally. A bit of a strange question here from Jem. She says, have you ever found anything weird in any of the wetlands water? I'm not sure if she means animal, mineral or objects really. So thanks, Jem, for that one.
I'm not 100% about the wetlands, but I can tell you about the water recycling centre because I spend my time at the water recycling centre. I've been at Anglian Water for over 11 years now, and I generally the tour that you've seen of the water recycling centre I'm normally doing with Key Stage 2 students. So we have seen all sorts of things. I've seen a frog swimming around in it. I've seen Chelmsford. We used to have a Britvic factory, so they used to clean the bottles when they were cleaning out Britvic, the machines at Britvic. And I'd come in one day and you'd have a stream of bright yellow sewage, there'd be bright green sewage, bright blue sewage, fake leg, mobile phones, false teeth.
Oh my goodness.
Corby used to have a whole collection of false teeth along the wall of the inlet where the sewage comes in. So they had a false teeth collection. There has been
so would that have gone down, sorry to interrupt you, would that have been somebody that had dropped those down the loo and then gone through the whole process?
Yeah, they're really lucky to have got all the way through. But yeah, dropped down the loo, knocked it off the sink, that sort of thing. We did have I've heard this secondhand, I haven't had this firsthand, I'm glad I didn't. But we had a call from someone who said, oh, you won't believe it, I've knocked my husband's false teeth down the loo. And they were like, well, it's highly unlikely we won't be able to find them. It could get stuck in the sewer pipes. It does take quite a long time to get through, especially if there's blockages and fat and wipes and stuff. But we'll keep an eye open. A pair of teeth turned up the next couple of days. They gave her a call. She came down and her husband popped them straight in.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, almost like a lost and found. Brilliant. We've got so Jem, thank you for that question, because that's created a lot of what we found in the works and stuff. And one from Jim now. There sounds like there's lots of roles regarding the environmental impacts of your work and how you manage that. Again, how do I find out about these and what qualifications do I need? Should we refer Jim back to your website again?
Yeah, I would do. I mean, what's on the website at the moment, the roles are always changing, what's coming up as well. So like the apprenticeships, things will come up where there are needs in the business. So we look at the pipeline in the business of where there's going to be people perhaps retiring, moving on. So they are constantly changing. So even if there's not something on there now, it's worth kind of having a look at as well. But yeah, there are huge amounts and all different types as well. So this comes through all sort of aspects, through construction, through engineering, through biodiversity. We've got our own biodiversity action team. I sit within the sustainability team. So there's huge amounts to do with the environment.
Lovely, thanks, Ellie. And that brings me on to Katie's question for you directly. Ellie, how did you get your role as a sort of education advisor for Anglian Water? I really enjoy teaching, and I'm also fascinated by what happens with our water and how it becomes clean. That's from Katie.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because that's exactly where I kind of came to it. I was a primary school teacher. And I particularly was interested in environmental issues. And I got heavily involved with eco schools and the school I was teaching in. And then I looked at what sort of options were out there, and this just happened to come out. And one of the things that I really enjoy about it is, yes, I really like the science side of it. So I love looking at the microorganisms in the sewage, but also there's thought that actually there's a bigger purpose to this, looking at actually how we can protect the environment. And we have all got a part to play in that. So even what we do, our small actions at home, so turning the tap off when you brush teeth, which I know most people do now, but actually these do all have an impact, and we can make a difference with this, and especially with impacts climate change. We always think it's elsewhere, but it's here as well. And that's where I think that's really important for me as part of the education team, that we can look at this sort of holistically.
Lovely. Thanks, Ellie. And Joel has asked, obviously he was listening to you a bit about working with the contractors and the alliances.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to work for one of your contractors or one of the alliances you work with, how can I, first of all, get work experience with them or start my career with them? And that's from Joel.
I would say Emily knows way more about that than I do.
Okay.
But I would guess it's probably the same for those companies as well. First place to look is their website, and I'm sure they will all have, similar to us, there's apprentice programs and all different sorts of schemes as well. So yeah, definitely I'd check out if there's any of those ones in particular you're interested in. Definitely check out their websites.
Thank you, Ellie. And then Jazz has said, do you have roles in PR, advertising and communications at Anglian Water?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, do I need to go the marketing and PR qualification route first or something else? So again, should we refer Jazz back to there? Yeah,
I would say Anglian Water is like a small city. We've got over 4,000 staff and there's over 1,000 different job roles. We've even got a wedding planner at Rutland Water. So pretty much everything you can think of, there is someone who does it, except for plumbers. We don't have plumbers. There are contractors again.
Okay, lovely. Well, that's really interesting to know.
But yes, we do have PR, marketing, all the rest of it, and I work with them quite closely. They're a great team.
Lovely. Thanks, Ellie. And Dan was obviously listening to you earlier. He said, what criteria do you use to measure whether you're a carbon neutral company or not? And that's from Dan.
Yeah, there are about 1 million different measures. That is not an easy question to get to. There is a lot about, we have reported, if you look at our website, the Anglian Water website, there is a lot about our carbon reporting in our annual report, but I think there is actually an individual carbon report, don't quote me on it, but I would definitely recommend, if you're really interested in carbon, look at that, because there is lots of information about how we measure it. It's about life cycle of a product, it's about the materials we use, it's the processes we use. So not just digging up a hole, is there a better way to do it? Can we use a different process? So can we mould to put a new pipeline in where we're using less carbon, less waste materials? And so these carbon measures they're huge. There's, not one single measure, I'm afraid. There's no easy answer.
Lovely, thanks, Ellie. And then one from Matt. The land where the Cambridge Recycling Centre is should allow you to invest in a really cool recycling centre somewhere else. How much is that land worth? Because Cambridge is really expensive. That's
I think this is one of the parts of the process. Where the Cambridge Water Recycling Centre is in at the moment is North Cambridge, Milton, and so that is it's on a large plot at the moment. So that will be freed up for housing development or business development, both mixture. Would have thought. But when the new treatment works is built, at the moment, you can have a look at all the planning consultation documents. They're all online at the moment because there's 3 proposed sites. And 3 proposed sites, they're all going to public consultation at the moment. So everybody who lives in that area has been asked their opinion, where they want it to go. And those new sites will be a lot smaller. So they will have a lot smaller footprint. And yes, the investment is going to be huge. But then it is going to enable a lot of other things. So it's going to enable carbon neutrality. It's going to enable a really modern process. But also one of these things, when these were built post-war, these have got a lifespan which was about 50 years. And they're generally about 70 years old now. So actually there needs to be a lot of investment just to maintain these buildings as well and the treatment works. So yes, it's going to lead to a lot of other things as well. So there is going to be a lot of growth and a lot of development in North Cambridge soon when it's transferred over.
Lovely, really exciting. Thanks, Ellie. And Marco's just texted in. He's listened to quite a lot of the Buildtastic live streams this week, and there's been a lot of talk of kind of the digital age, augmented reality, mixed reality, wearing goggles on building sites to do specific jobs. What, in terms of Anglian Water, how are they using kind of the new sort of digital technology? I don't know if that's kind of...
Yeah, well, you say new. We've been using it probably as long as I've been at Anglian Water, so they've been using virtual technology, and that was one of the times, if I had time, I was going to talk about, but unfortunately I ran out of time. But yes, part of the process, it's all designed up, it can all be gone into virtually, and they're testing just simple things. I know one of the engineers I spoke to was telling me they went through a treatment works that has now been built, so this was many years ago. He was walking through, and there was a really simple detail, and he walked through the VR headset, and his head hit a stair. So actually, it was a really simple thing, but doing it virtually meant that actually they could save thousands of pounds testing it in that process. But yeah, all of these are created virtually, and they'll be looking at with the virtual process. Again, they've got different criteria. So for the longevity, the carbon, all of those sorts of things, the energy and health and safety.
Lovely. I think that's all our questions there, Ellie. So thank you so much for your presentation today, and your time and your enthusiasm. You speak so articulately and passionately about, you know, the organisms in our sewage, through to the scientific and the biological process, right through to your PR and marketing. So on behalf of West Suffolk College staff and students, I'd like to say thank you, and for the wider Anglian Water, Emily, David and the crew, for supporting our Buildtastic event this week. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you soon. And yeah, come and see us when the COVID restrictions, and I owe you a lunch in our student restaurant. So many thanks, Ellie. Take good care.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.